Hey guys, happy Friday. So I am still in the office and it's a little after 5. You can see Austin. It's downtown Austin from the office. I'm sitting in somebody else's space because they've got a door and yeah, it's quite cozy and there's nobody here. A lot of people leave at noon on Fridays or they work from home from Fridays or flex schedules. A lot of the folks that were not legacy seat that came over, I think, they work pretty regularly. They'll work 9 hour days and then take off half day every Friday. Or some of them will work 9 hour days and take off every other Friday. And they all do it. So their 9 hours are very regular, 8 to 6 or 7 to 5 or whatever it is. Whereas the people that I worked with previously we kind of just do whatever fits the schedule and the client needs and what projects we need to be on, and it's our personal lives, and it's very flexible, which is kind of cool. So it's been a really long week. We've done a lot this week. Early on this week, I was at a field site, which you might have seen on my Instagram stories. I posted about our hydraulic testing. So we tested these huge gates that kind of like tip over and spill out water, and it was really cool. And I stood on top of a standpipe as we were testing 4 pumps, spitting water into the standpipe. And there's video, just like looking into the standpipe on my Instagram. If you go check that out, it's kind of neat. I was standing on the top, and the whole thing was like starting to shake because there was air entrapped in the pipes, and it was like burping out the air. And I looked over to our hydraulics engineer and was just like, wait a second, who's the structural engineer of this structure we are standing on that is 40 feet in the air, 50 feet in the air? He just looks over at me and he's like, now you're asking? I'm like, yeah, I gotta know if I need a rundown. I wrote that. Oh, it's Howie, I trust him. So I was on site and the evenings and all of yesterday I've been working on this project that is going out for rebid, and it's within the city of Austin. So it's a project that I did a lot of design on. A lot of my first design was with this project, and things have changed. Projects are always fluid. People are changing what's in the project, how the project is set up, what type of material they want on something. It's constantly changing. So I have redesigned it, I feel like, a bunch of times. And it's going out for bid in February, probably. Who knows with these things. But we had to repackage it, and they took out some things. And so I went through all the old specs, and I was looking at, like, okay, now that we don't have this whole system, the component, how does it change my pipe spec, or how does it change my valve spec? So it was real actual design that I got to do, and I never get to do real design. I think one of the misnomers going through engineering school is that the calculations is not most of what engineering is. It's writing reports and figuring out what people want and their expectations and working with other people and lots of answering emails. And then you get a design package out of it. You get to do the actual design, the specs and the drawings. And there's a lot of background work that goes into choosing that one pump. So, like today, I was working on a different project that's a well that is probably 1,300 feet deep, 1,400 feet deep. It's a ASR well, and so I was talking to the pump manufacturers. I also talked to valve manufacturers. I was, pulling down sheets of like what the size of the pump is to make sure it would fit in the size of the well, and that all the hydraulics worked out. And so that was real design. That was like doing calculations. And then when it comes to creating the package that goes out to bid for the contractors, it'll just be one line that will say, we need a pump that has this GPM, is this sort of motor with this horsepower and this efficiency. And that will be it. And so, like, all this design work and talking to all these different people and doing the spreadsheets on, okay, we got this well here, and there's another well that's kind of far down. how does it interfere with this well? What is my friction losses in the pipe and all of the valving, flow meters and stuff? And so that is like real engineering, doing the calculation behind it. But for this other project for City of Austin, or Austin Water, it was, we were changing one thing, and so we got rid of this whole section, and so I didn't know if the pipes, if we were going to have any pipe that was less than 1 inch and would need to be heat traced. So that is a standard we use in Texas because it is very warm in Texas, you could say. It does not freeze often, if ever. But if it were to freeze or you get down below freezing, we would be concerned about our 1 inch and smaller lines freezing up with water inside them. And so what they do is they put this like little wire on top of the pipes, and there's an electric current that goes to the wire that will heat up the pipes if it gets below a certain degree outside. And the wires on the pipes, and then they insulate the pipes, and so that's all in there. And so they call that heat tracing. And so I was going through all my documents trying to figure out, like, do we even have any of these 1 inch lines anymore? Do I even need this whole specification that says to heat trace lines? And so there wasn't a whole lot of real design. I wasn't choosing, the type of insulation. I wasn't choosing the type of pipe. It was all, I'd already designed it a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, however long ago it was that we designed it. And so this was just going in and looking through the drawings and figuring out if we needed the spec or not. But it's really kind of cool because it's a rebid project, which means it was bid out to the contractors. They got one bid. They wanted a more competitive bid, and they also had a lot of things that they needed to change because it's because things are always changing, and they could change it by change order or during the construction phase of the project, but they wanted to get a better bid anyway. So they decided to go ahead and redo the bidding process, and so us from the engineering side have to take out all the things they want us to take out, repackage it up, and send it out to bid again, which I think is going to go. Somebody was talking about a meeting, like a kickoff meeting or something on my birthday, and I was like, ooh, yes, I do like this. So now that it's going to rebid, we're the prime engineer, so we're the consultant that is directly contracted to the client, and then we have sub-consultants that are contracted to us. So our ultimate client is, the city or the water utility or whoever it is. But we help work with our team to make sure everybody's on the same page. So we'll have a sub-consultant that it does the structural and a sub-consultant that does the electrical and I&C, which are things that we can do in-house because we're a huge company, but locally on an engineering project, you generally have to have, it has to be like a multi-team effort, so you have to partner with other engineering firms. So you're really not in a situation where your competitors are like your enemies, right? Your competitors, yeah, they might be competing against you on this one project, but over here you might be on the same team going after another project together, which is very interesting. But yeah, so we're the prime, we've got all these consultants, they've all got these different pieces, and so as I take out something from my project, I was going to take out this heat tracing spec. I had to make sure, hey, were you not actually going to use heat tracing on any of your pipelines that you have in your site civil work? Or, you've got this other piece that's this other part of the it's in a whole different area that you design, but maybe you need to use the same type of painting and coating, and I need to make sure I keep that in my spec. And so generally, there's a lot of back and forth between different companies when you're working on the design. So I'll email them, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll email me back, hey, I'm working on this other project that's a fast burn, and I'll get to your question next week. And so then I sit around working on other stuff or doing whatever until I hear back from them, and then I get back into it and I figure out, oh yeah, I need to change the spec this way, and then I email more questions to other people, and it's a lot of back and forth and email and communicating between the two companies. It'd be really cool if we had something like Microsoft Teams or Slack where we could all communicate together. But anyway, we now that it's a rebid and it's all happening within like a week or 2 weeks, we're all working the design, everybody's working on it together, like fast paced. I know I can send out an email to a sub-consultant, like, hey, what do you think about, this valve detail? Do you still need this detail? And they'll be like, yeah, I think I do, or I don't need that, or I've already got it covered on my other sheet like this. And it's very fast just because everybody is on the same page. We're all working on it. We're all getting it done on this really tight deadline. And it's kind of cool. And so it's not just me working on it. There's the PM. We got a couple. We've got two younger engineers that were helping to chase things down. We've got an engineer that was in Austin during the design, and she's since moved to Birmingham, and so she's helping to work on it. We've got our CAD folks and some designers up in Dallas, and so everybody is just working together and having phone calls, and we're just like spitting out emails to each other about, hey, I'm changing this on this spec, or hey, do you know if you have any type of piping that is exposed and is 3 inches or more? I don't know why you need to know that. If it were 3 inches or less, it'd probably be more important to know, because then it might freeze. Yeah, I took out a signage spec that was, how telling the contractor how to make plaques that go on buildings and how to make signs that were non-potable water. And so I had to make sure that the electrical people didn't need to have any high voltage signs, that we didn't need to have any, pump tag numbers that were in that spec, and lots of just like going back and forth and checking this and checking that. And it still kind of feels like that is real design to me, that even though it's not, setting up a TICE equation on a spreadsheet like Lindsay did today on the ASR well, it's still going into the specs and making design documents, which is way more engineering to me than most everything else that I do. It's more engineering than responding to RFIs during construction, or just sitting in construction meetings, or just other meetings in the office. So it's been a very fast week between those 3 projects. Oh, and there's another project that they're setting up the fieldwork for, that I was supposed to call somebody today about, and I just didn't get around to it. And yeah, there's been a couple other emails that have been a little bit stressful, that I think is the team not understanding differences in personality. So we've definitely got personalities that if they're doing something on the project, they let the whole world know about it. If they know something, they tell everybody. And we've got other people, myself included, that if I'm working on the project, I probably don't send out emails saying, hey, I'm working on this, expect an email from me in 2 hours. I probably just do it and then send it out. And because we work remotely, there's sometimes the misunderstanding that somebody is not doing something, or what I'm really afraid it might be the case is they think, oh, that little lady there, she just needs some help. Let me just do her job for her. And then I get very frustrated if people are trying to do my job, and we call it duplicating work, if you're doing the same thing somebody else is doing because you haven't communicated enough. But there's also situations like this one that, it was my job and I was doing the work, and I'm the PM, so I didn't have to tell anybody that I was doing the work. It should have just been assumed. And somebody went in the evening and redid it that evening and sent it off to the client without anybody's approval, and it was missing a whole some stuff, and I was very aggravated. Like, you're sending emails out to my client, and I'm the PM, and you sent out wrong stuff, and you duplicated work. Yeah, so people are very interesting. I just had a conversation, which is why I'm here late, as the PM, my boss, had called me from Fort Worth, and he had seen some emails, and I was like, hey, we need to talk about this sometime. And so he gave me a call, and he's always got such a great perspective, and he understands how people work and all the different personalities really well. And so I talked through that with him, and I talked through a couple other projects that I have with him, and gave him some status updates, and we talked about the company. He's in kind of a high up position, and so he sees what's happening, and he can tell me like, hey, this negotiation was very interesting because of X, Y, and Z, which is like to me is this huge insight into how we run a business and how we negotiate and how what projects we go after and which ones we don't, and it's very helpful to me, and I super appreciate it that he does that. He's a great mentor, especially if he's willing to stay late on a Friday to Skype with me about some of my personal problems and I guess not my personal problems, but problems with people I am managing. Some issues, not problems. But yeah, there was a couple other things that I wanted to talk to you about, but now it's been such a long day, and I'm sure you can see the sun is like literally going down as I'm still sitting here in the office. So I'm gonna let you go. I hope you have a great weekend. And check out my highlights on the Instagram for that hydraulic test because it was super awesome, you guys. So awesome. I think I texted it to everyone I know because it was so awesome. If you didn't get a text, don't take it personally though. Just text me and I will forward it to you. Bye.